here. I'm just very disappointed in kind of what I've been seeing as it relates to stories like this. So I'm showing you a Twitter thread here. I'm going to put it on full screen so everyone can see it, right? This came out on ESPN Ringside's Twitter account. Jermell Charlo, not cruiserweight champ, Yungu Makabu could be Canelo's next opponent, according to Mike Coppinger, who obviously works for ESPN.
First of all, there's no such thing as breaking news in boxing, okay? The second a fight is official, in 5 minutes, it's viral, right? So everybody knows in 5 minutes. So there's this mad rush by people to try to be the first to break the story. And when I was first coming up on the beat, I wanted to be that guy. And I was talking to promoters every day. Oh my God, what's going on with this? I was that dude on the phone all day because I was hungry and trying to work my way up. And what I realized is what a lot of these promoters and network people will do, trainers even do it, is they will use writers to negotiate through the media. And they'll use writers to bounce ideas out there to fans and everything just to get a reaction, while they're doing something completely different behind the scenes. And I got used a few times like that. And I would tweet something or do a YouTube video or whatever saying, this fight's going to happen next month. They're going to hear, or this announcement's coming next month. Whatever. And then it turns out to be bullshit, right? 2/3 of the negotiations we see on social media are bullshit. They don't come through. They don't come to fruition. That's how the boxing business works. There's negotiations happening in public, and then there's what's happening in the office that we don't know about. So what I would tell fans is follow Canelo. If you want to know when Canelo's next fight's going to happen, follow Eddie Reynoso, wait for DAZN or whoever it is to make an announcement. Because the second that fight is official, they're going to tell you because they want to promote the fucking event. Stop going to these other dudes that depend on your clicks to justify their pay scale at their corporation. All right. These corporate type of guys. You're just feeding into the problem. So as it relates to Cop specifically, okay, I got no issues with Cop. I've dealt with him. He's met my wife. We've talked in person. We've DM'd on Twitter, the whole nine. Oops.
Well, Mike, that's all fair and good, but I mean, he presents himself as as a reporter working for ESPN. And my follow-up question is, if you put out information there that is so blatantly false and is refuted so quickly by Canelo's own manager, I would just expect you to put out some form of a retraction. Is that too much to ask?
He doesn't have to. First of all, people don't follow Cop to break down a fight, for gambling advice or for historical references, because he's not a boxing guy. He started in sports covering hockey, I believe. It was Anaheim Ducks, which is like the Orange County, right? So he's not a boxing guy. He didn't come up in the gyms or in the culture or nothing. He is a industry guy that got a job in boxing, okay? People follow Cop for breaking news. They don't follow him for his fight scores. So he has to constantly put out material to get those clicks to justify everything else I've said, okay? So anytime he talks to someone, when he tweets something, what does he say? Sources, blah, 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 blah. So when shit goes downhill, he can say, hey, man, my sources got it wrong.
But he hasn't been hurt by being wrong. Like, you know what I mean? He just hasn't. Like it doesn't, his following is only growing. I mean, he's he got a job at ESPN doing what he does. So why will he stop doing it? I don't see him stopping. And I'll say one more thing. I've always suggested this. If you don't have any other sources, give us a scale. From a scale of 1 to 10, how reliable is this? So like, for example, if he would have said, hey, I have a source telling me that Canelo's in negotiations with Charlo, from a scale of 1 to 10, 1 not so reliable, 10 very reliable, I'll put it at a 4. Then we're not here. You know what I mean? We're not angry. Like nobody's upset, nobody's let down. Now if you say, no, guys, this is a fucking 10, this shit's official. Now we're talking. I think there should be some type of scale system that reporters use, right? Whenever they break a story, in my opinion.
It doesn't hurt Mike Coppinger, because Mike Coppinger is telling people what they want to hear. And a lot of times in this world, people don't care if something's true or not. They just want to be told what they want to hear. and he's feeding people who want to hear what he's selling. But I have to say this: I'm not a big fan of him because he's just very disingenuous, and I think he doesn't even believe the stuff he's putting out there. But as Mike said, he has a get out of jail free card. My source was wrong, not me, right? But he's continuously wrong. He's been wrong a lot. And I've talked to people that he worked with before, and they weren't too happy with how he just puts things out there. He's quote unquote fast and loose with his information. But Mike, I have to be honest with you. I don't think you would do that if you were in that position. I just don't think you would do it. I don't think you're that type of person.
I appreciate that, Joe. You said a lot of things I can't say. You know,
and I know that.
I'm in a tough spot here.
And I respect you.
Oh, I mean, Mike, I thank you for coming on and even being here while we're discussing this topic, because, you know, like you said, I mean, we're talking about colleagues in the industry here. But
I've talked to some of your colleagues in the past, Mike.
Oh, I know.
and I've heard what they've said about him.
Hey,
you know, and he could be the nicest guy in the world. I just don't like how he does his job. That's all. That's just my opinion.
If you look at Cop's track record, the amount of jobs, the amount of gigs this guy has had in a very, very short amount of time, you see what the agenda is. He's a climber. I got nothing against the guy as a human being.
He's an opportunist. He's an opportunist.
Okay. Do I think Cop's going to be involved in boxing 20 years from now? I don't think so.
No.
Do I think Steve Kim, Doug Fisher will be around? Yes.
I was pushing for this Charlo fight. Initially, I thought Charlo was going to get the Canelo fight after Caleb Plant, and I'm just disappointed right now. You know that the report wasn't true. Eddie Reynoso shut it down, so I'm still pushing for this Canelo Charlo fight. I mean, Canelo, he's been on a tear lately. He's been fighting undefeated champions back to back: Billy Joe Saunders, Caleb Plant, and now he's looking to fight Charlo. At least that's what I thought. I mean, I want to see that fight. You know, I think that'd be a great fight on Cinco de Mayo. Charlo is an undefeated champion at 160. Charlo is recognized by most as the #1 middleweight in boxing. I don't have much to say about Mike Coppinger, but you have to be careful, you know, when you put these type of reports out there. You don't want to mislead the boxing fan.
Just for the record, just because Reynoso denied it does not mean it's not true. I just want to put that out there. Okay. So, because when I was on Hailstorm Sports, and people remember this, okay, we broke the story, Eric Morales popping dirty, okay, and they denied it. Oh, that's not true, right?
I remember that.
But we had 3 sources, though. You know what I mean? We had 3 fucking we were ready. You know what I mean? And the next day, they had nothing else to say, right? So all I'm saying is, you know, obviously the batting average, you know, with his batting average, he wouldn't make it in the MLB when it comes to. So I'll just say that.
Yeah, whenever you see stories like this, and you know, of course, earlier people were talking about it, that Eddie Reynoso, and like you were just explaining with that tweet or that message, that they're denying it. Sometimes, from what D-Style was saying just a second ago, sometimes things are leaked like this and they might deny it, but then come to find out later on, everything's just being in the works, and they're you know, going through the kinks and whatnot, and just making sure that everything's settled so that they can, you know, officially announce it. Sometimes it happens like that, but I would say premature. Look, I always come from the school of thought that you need to have more than one witness. You need to have out of 2 or 3 witnesses, a matter shall be established. So you have to have sources, and you have to have things that are reliable that back things up. And sometimes, you know, it comes from sources that other people may not know. And of course, I'm not no journalist, but of course, you know, we have guys that are in that field. But just looking at it from the outside looking in, you have to have substantial amount of reliable sources, whether they're known or well known. But a lot of times the well known are the ones that are more credible, they're going to be the ones that you use to substantiate what you're claiming about this fight being done. So that's how I'm looking at it.
Do you know what? It happens in the UK, but this is what happens because we have a few newspapers that give out like fake news. Well, very, very loose news, okay? And what happens with those, and this is one thing I think is an opportunity for other reporters in boxing, is that when somebody like that, reporters putting out just false information out there, that's almost a sign that, you know what, this is an opportunity for me to put out reliable, accurate information. And all of the time, the cream will always rise to the top. You see, in boxing, no, let's just say in football, which is another sport I follow, okay, the biggest reporter is a guy called Fabrizio Romano out there in Italy. The reason why he's the biggest because he's the most accurate and he comes with the information the quickest. And if Mike Coppinger is just putting out just false information, that just means two things. That means that other reporters have an opportunity to be now the top dog, and also it means that the promoters or managers that he's reporting on can kind of conduct their business behind the scenes without being exposed in the wider frame.
Look, Cop has an amazing amount of sources, and he is a guy who's in a position where he's being given real information from people in with real knowledge. Look, he broke the Roman Reigns had COVID story last week, before anybody else. That was a huge story, and WWE doesn't give things like that to just anybody, and ESPN wouldn't just give that to anybody. So ultimately Cop's in the position that he's in. You know what I'm saying? Like that you have to take his word to a certain degree because he is the guy getting this information. He's the guy at the top of the chair, like Dan Rafael was at some point. But to say that also is to understand that this sport works very different in terms with its fans. For the rest of us, guys like me who've been watching Joe since 2012 and have followed Montero forever, we know who the guys are that are in this sport, whose blood pumps them. Montero just fought a boxing match, for Christ's sake, like months ago and won. You know what I mean? So it's like we know who is genuine's a strong word. I'm not saying he's not genuine, but it's just as others have said, he has other aspirations that aren't, necessarily in line with boxing. That said, 3 other people, broke this story. Custer gave an interview back in the Plant promotion saying that there were talks and I know that's very different than coming out and putting out a story that's breaking, quote unquote. But it's like, I think for the most part, and I'll end it with this, I think for the most part, people are very disappointed. It's like H said, we were looking forward to this fight. We wanted this to be true.